But we'd like to welcome Matt the Tissier to our 36-hour fundraiser. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us today as we're coming into, hour 2 now of 36 hours broadcasting. So thank you for coming on. How's things? How's the podcast going?
I'm all good, thank you very much. Yeah, I haven't. I've had a break from the flip side. My interview's on Monday night, so I'm not quite sure when I'm going to start them up again. But it was quite intense for about 9 months there, and so just having a little bit of a break. But yeah, still fighting the good fight and trying to make sure that everyone's aware of just how corrupt our government are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're obviously looking at really focusing on the children to raise awareness of what's going on in the schools. And we wanted to touch a bit on, the sports aspect, because, women are being done away with. We're having men competing in women's sports because they identify, that's where I kind of want to go with us, Matt, and your thoughts on all of this nonsense.
Well, it clearly is nonsense. I mean, there's just so much going on in the world right now to confuse people. You don't know which way to turn. You don't know which fight to start having first. There's so many things that are so wrong that you feel like you're putting out fires on all fronts. And I think this is a deliberate tactic by those wishing to implement all this nonsense. And so, yeah, you're right. We have to keep focused on each of the different things that are going on, and the transgender stuff in sport is certainly one that is a fight that I think is a pretty easy one to win, a pretty easy one to convince the majority of people that this isn't the right thing to do. It's pretty obvious to me that people who are born a male should not be competing in sport against people who are born females. It's unfair. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that it's getting so much coverage just belies belief, really. Because I think if you speak to the huge majority of people in the world, they would probably agree that, yes, men shouldn't really be competing against women in sport. And so the amount of publicity it's getting for people to try and force this through and trying to almost bully people into accepting it, which is kind of what's been done over the last 3 years with all the other stuff that's going on. And it's a very insidious way of getting people to try to bow to your ideology. And I'm afraid that it's not washing with a huge amount of people. And that's why we have to stand strong. People like us have to voice public opinions and give other people the strength to be able to stand up in public and say, I'm sorry, but no, this is not right. And I'm not playing your stupid games.
Yeah, it is. It's obvious, actually, how much of an agenda it is. You hit the nail on the head there, because if you went out and spoke to the majority of people, they would massively disagree with it. So the fact that they've given airtime to such, a minority of people would suggest that they're just trying desperately to ram this agenda down everybody's throats. And like you say, it's obvious that men shouldn't be partaking in women's sports. It's ridiculous that we even have to have this conversation.
The mainstream media are also glorifying, you look at the likes of Channel 4 and the likes of presenters such as Gary Lineker and all these other people that are really
the woke agenda,
the totally woke agenda. And it's like our kids don't have a chance, and especially women within sports as well.
But I think that's where it's important for us as parents to make sure that our children do not get indoctrinated into this stuff. When I come, I've heard my daughter speak about some of the stuff that they've learned in their PHSE lessons. Well, my God, honestly, my head is fuming.
Well, give us an example. Give us an example, Matt.
Well, recently she came home and she told me that obviously there were 13 and 14-year-olds in this class, and that they were being taught how to put condoms on.
I told you.
And my daughter was horrified, absolutely horrified, and wanted to walk out of class.
This is the other thing as well. They're actually being forced. There are children there who would have been abused as well. So can you imagine the trigger response and they're being forced to do this, and half of them don't even want to do it. They don't want to do it.
I've got to say, for me, this is nothing less than grooming.
It is grooming. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's such a difficult subject for us to get across, Matt, as we've been saying. I mean, at the moment, there's 5 parents who are taking the Welsh Government. They lost the judicial review because the judge was like, woke. It's going to continue. It's going to go further. But the Welsh Government has already put £75,000, over 75 grand in court costs against these 5 parents. These group of parents are the only people that managed to take it this far. And it's these group of parents standing in front of the government and at your children, my children, everybody's children. And it's all on them because they're going to take it to the highest court in the land. And we're getting this exposure. But the attack is unbelievable, and trying to raise awareness and get people talking about it, it's because it's uncomfortable and they could be branded as a racist
or a homophobe
or a bigot.
Ridiculous.
It's just how, we're just trying to raise this money, and it's so difficult because not enough people are talking about it. They're still talking about COVID, which, as I said with Richard Phobes, is equally as important at what's happened, the millions of deaths, the 5G, also very important. But the children, every child, while we're chatting and posting about COVID, there's another child being exploited to this education. And it's just getting people to talk about it, Matt. I mean, I don't know what you've seen within your circles, if people are having this conversation.
Well, I think a lot of people are actually not aware of what their children are being taught in schools.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with one of my neighbours just this morning, and he I would say is pretty a pretty progressive type. He's kind of quite I would say very much went along with all the rules of the last couple of years. But even he was outraged when I was in what was going on in the PHSE lessons at my daughter's school. And I think it really is something where if everybody knew what their children were being taught, there would be absolute uproar. And the fact that the schools are doing this and actively kind of trying to keep parents away from knowing about it makes my suspicions even higher, and makes me think that it is actual grooming of young children. My daughter was horrified that she is in a class where she is being taught how to put a condom on, and it took all my strength not to jump in the car and drive down and grab hold of that teacher and just go, what the hell are you playing at?
Yeah, I'm surprised at that. I keep saying I'm surprised because I know my daughter isn't in school anyway. She's home educated, has been since she was 4. But if that had happened, I would have done that. I am that person that would have gone up and I would have kicked the door down.
And that's what I keep asking. We keep asking the question, where are the dads?
Yeah.
Where are the dads at those school rates? Because that's your duty as a father, is to protect your family.
Yeah.
And keep that. And you are letting other people who you don't know educate your child about sex.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's very different from when we were in school. So, a lot of people can look back and go, oh, well, they just assume then that it's not going on because that wasn't going on when we were in school. So they, like you say, a lot of it is unaware. And especially teenagers, this is another thing we've noticed, is a lot of the teenagers, although horrified by what's going on, they say to their parents, but don't go in there and don't
embarrass us,
because they're going to be embarrassed by it. So there's a lot of things unsaid, and parents don't know, and some of it's one big mess.
What they're doing also, Matt, I don't know if you're aware of this, it was you who told me, they're getting the seat because there's a big focus in Wales for getting the little ones, so they're not bringing the education, this discussing education in 2 secondary school children, they're bringing it in to the little ones from 3.
Yeah.
And what the schools are doing is they're bringing the older students, senior schools, in to talk about it with the little ones. Now, I don't know if you can remember when you were at school, when you had the senior school kids come down and talk to you, you would be held on their every word because they were the cool kids.
They were older, and they're basically coming down to explain their LGBT
so they're actually grooming
experience.
The teenagers are grooming unaware.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very clever. It's incredibly clever.
It is clever. Sinister, but clever.
Very sinister, very clever. But they have so much knowledge of psychological techniques that they are using against the population. And this is stuff that's been used for the last 3 years. The psychological insights team, the behavioural insights team that were on SAGE, all know exactly how to coerce and manipulate people into doing things without them realising what they're actually doing.
Yeah, it's psychological warfare, isn't it? And it's been happening for decades as well, but I think it's just become more noticeable in the last 3 years, obviously. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a form of warfare. You know, we are in a war now. It's just this one's not being fought with guns and bombs.
Absolutely. This is an information war going on, and that's why you're seeing countries around the world trying to start policing what information you can see on the internet.
Yeah.
With the online harm safety bill that they're trying to push through in this country, but in Ireland, well, draconian laws that they are going to use to basically cover up all the lies that they've told over the last few years, because they're the ones that have been spreading the misinformation. And now they have to put these laws in place to stop their own lies from being exposed. And that's
just crazy. It is just crazy. And obviously at the moment as well, I don't know if you saw it, but last week the UN, they'd come out that they're basically decriminalising consensual sex between adults and minors, right? So at the same time, this is another thing that we keep telling people when we're going on our demos and our tours and trying to get this information out there, is that they are teaching children as young as 3 how to consent. Now that's negotiation. That's a predator's paradise, that is, because you've just done the grooming for them. You know, a predator doesn't go in all guns blazing, although we've been told about, it does happen occasionally, but it's quite rare. If somebody's going to get abused, especially a child, it's usually by somebody they know, and that's because they have to build up that trust relationship. So what they're doing is teaching very young kids what it should be, right, for young children, is a flat out no.
That's what they need to teach, how to say no.
It's not black, it's not a grey area in it. It's safeguarding a child is black and white. You teach them absolutely nobody touches you by there or discusses or talks about it. If they do, you raise the alarm. And then later on in life, sort of adolescence age, you teach them the consequence of consent. So they're teaching little children, listen to your body, know what feels good, good touch, bad touch. Well, that is highly, highly, highly dangerous from a paedophile's point of view. I put this in practice for somebody the other day. So if you've got like a 4-year-old child that's been taught that, if it feels nice, it's okay. And then say you've got, just for argument's sake, a 30-year-old predator. They've come in, they've sat next to that child, they've tickled them under the chin, perhaps. Does that feel nice? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't have to even elaborate on that to see how dangerous that is there is a video actually in one of Kim's presentations where you see a 6-year-old child consenting sexual relationships with their own father, because that's how easy it is.
Playing that later,
we'll play it later on, but this is what I mean. You're teaching them consent instead of just a flat out no, and then the UN then are coming over the top and saying, adult child, if they've agreed to it. And this is where the prosecution then is really, it's very difficult to prosecute if you've got, say, a 12-year-old who thinks they're in love with a groomer. Is this exactly how grooming works? But now they're going to bring in a law to say, it's okay if the child says yes. This is such dangerous territory we're on right now. And parents have basically got no rights. They've got no rights. But the child has got rights now. So in Wales anyway, they've even told us in the judicial review that we took last year against the Welsh government, they basically said, now this is going to apply across the board for medicine as well, right? So this is quite a big thing, really. England, Wales got the same judicial system, that you didn't have parental rights anyway, and if you did, they were very, very minuscule. And you do have an option to opt out of this education. Your 2 options are private educate or home educate. So basically what they're saying is, we're doing it anyway whether you like it or not, and you haven't got any parental responsibility, but we've just given your children's rights and children's reproductive rights, sexual rights. So it's all sort of connecting into the big policies then that they're bringing up, you know, through the UN. It's very seriously dangerous, and like you said a minute ago, don't think many people know about it. They certainly don't, because they could be uproar.
A podcast that I did about a year ago, you know, when all this stuff was kind of kicking off, I said it won't be long before they will be trying to normalise paedophilia and legalise it and lower the age.
And here we are.
All that kind of stuff, and you know, here, I mean, the UN. I mean, for an organisation who are meant to be for the betterment of the world, I'm sorry, they're a disgusting organisation. And you know, I was reading things, you know, 2 or 3 years ago about you know, the child trafficking and, you know, the paedophilia that goes on at top levels in you know, society and governments and all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of a bit skeptical about it. And then you see things like this, and what the UN are doing, and it just makes you go, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe there's a bit more to all this than meets. Maybe the conspiracy theorists are right after all. You know, they're not doing themselves any favors by this, and I think it's just exposing themselves to the public if they can be bothered to look. They're just exactly what they are.
Yeah, they are. And again, the same with the World Health Organization. So this sex education, which was agreed all for UK, it's worldwide anyway, it's in 52 other countries, it's been in America a long time, but all 4 UK governments signed up to this exactly the same as it's a global rollout in March 2017. So they, you know, and it was based on 2 documents, one from the UN and the other one from the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization, the document that I can't remember what it's called, but it's on Public Child Protection Wales's thingy, but it's basically, you know, the one that they've used, and it's a 2010 document, and within it they've got what they call the matrix, right? So they go give you your age range, and they give you the information fed into the child about gender and sex, basically, and the skills and behaviors that they will, you know, they'll see from it. And it starts from 0, right? So in the World Health Organization document, they say, in the UN, they say we're sexual from birth, and I'll tell you where this comes from in a minute. And in the WHO, they say we're sexual from in the womb. That's actually in the document, right? So we've got 0 to 4, and that's early childhood masturbation, right? Know what feels good, good touch, bad touch, listen to your body. 4 to 6, 6 to 9. In that 6 to 9 bracket, if they've got sexual intercourse and, you know, other sexual intercourse between 2 males, between 2 females, this is 6 to 9. Then you've got 9 to 12, 12 to 15, and 16 plus. And the matrix documents in both the UNESCO document, the UN document, obviously, and you've got it in the WHO document. Now, the reason that they say we're sexual from birth comes from Alfred Kinsey, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. I can't.
It's too much.
It's too early, and I don't want any children to hear it. But this education didn't come from nowhere. They obviously, to put it there's got to be some science behind it. Well, we discovered the science behind it. It comes from 1940s. And basically, I can't really say what it is, but I'm just going to say, I will later on.
We will be discussing it quite a lot later.
It was based on child abuse from the age 2 months old, right? And from this, monitored child abuse from this, all ages of children. It's actually in a publication called Sexual Behaviour in the Human Male and Sexual Behaviour in the Human Female, which was a later publication, where basically it was child abuse from age 2 months up to 15 years, and they recorded all this so-called data, which I won't go into, and that is why they're saying we're sexual from birth. So it's basically the perpetrator, so from the paedophile's perspective then, what they class as the big O, and I'm not going to say it, right? So basically these children were being tortured, and that is why they say we are capable of sexual experience from birth. Right, I can't go into it.
And then the thing is that they do actually list in some books that are going into the schools that you've done the blog on, how to make your school an LGBT friendly place.
Oh, they
referenced the Kinsey book, and they didn't say specifically what part of the Kinsey book, so that meant the whole book, which including that matrix.
Yeah, and it's written. I knew it because I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
So on the WHO document, in the bibliography at the bottom, they've got John Bancroft, and John Bancroft was director of the Kinsey Institute, where this disgusting raw data came from in the 1990s. They didn't actually put Kinsey's name on there because I think they were aware that people will look for Kinsey and then they'll find a connection. So I knew what I was looking for. So they directly referenced Kinsey in that World Health Organization document, and they have in the UNESCO document. Right, so we're talking a sex education here based upon disgusting child abuse. Of course, we're not sexual from birth. There is such the thing as childhood innocence, but these people don't believe in that. They believe there's no line between child and adult, and therefore children can
the word
respond
sex
to this.
should not be in a child's vocabulary
No, I know.
until, personally, 12, 13, when maybe to talk, and it's the parents' job. It's
Absolutely.
the parents' job to decide
Yeah,
when their
not a
child is
random
ready.
paedophile from years ago.
We've waffled for ages now. Let's give Matt a chance
Yeah,
to talk.
sorry, I was just giving him a bit of information.
Right. It's not random paedophiles' job to teach your child about sex. The government should not be getting involved in what is a parent's job.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of one of my biggest things over the last few years, is that the government have had way too much overreach into our lives, and this is another step into it. And I'm sorry, but all this stuff that the WHO and the UN are pumping out just tells me that those organizations are being run by paedophiles. That's what the evidence points to in my mind.
Exactly. Have you had or your wife Angie had any conversations with the school about it? How have they approached? Because they don't want parents getting involved at all.
No, they don't. And I've obviously got some very strong opinions on it. We've chosen to go down the route of educating our on these subjects outside of school and having proper conversations with her. And she is pretty level-headed. She's very opinionated, and she's happy to stick up for herself when it comes to the subjects that they're talking about and she doesn't agree with. And so we are happy to, as long as she's strong enough to have those conversations, we've allowed her to be herself, and we've told her that if any of the conversations that she has in these PHSE lessons are she is too uncomfortable with, then she has our permission to walk out the classroom.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's what we encourage all parents to do. Absolutely, get them out, because it's so different, because they're putting it into every lesson as well. It's a whole school approach. Isn't that right?
So it's not just they will say, oh, there's a standalone lesson, but what they've done very sneakily with this new education is, because they know people are going to pull their kids out of that one lesson once they find out what's going on. They've basically put it through the whole curriculum, so it's in every lesson. So unless you remove your child completely, they're going to be exposed at some point. This is how much they want it really rammed down people's throats. They've done it that way. So that's why the whole opt-out, and they have said in England actually, but that's going to change. In the relationships, so you've got relationships and sex education. Apparently from the relationship side of it, you are able to opt out at the moment, but that's going to change because we all signed up to that. So Kim always says we're in the same storm but different boats. So obviously in Scotland and England, you had the lesson content before we had it in Wales. In Wales, they legislated it here first before they brought the lesson content in. So this is where that's why we got the fight down here, because Scotland can't go in with it because it's not been legislated, even though and Scotland have had some seriously graphic,
have had horrific stuff going on.
Yeah, and you've actually got, what's his name, Richard Lucas in the Scottish Family Party. He's the one talking out up there, but they've had some horrific, seriously graphic pornography content in the classroom and in the school libraries and in the public libraries. Actually, I don't know if you would have seen things on the drag queen stuff that's
going on.
That's going on. Have you seen anything on that, Matt? It's been blowing up everywhere.
I saw that when it started in America, and then inevitably, of course, it just tried to follow, and all that stuff is just puts a knot in my stomach when I see it. I think it's sick, and there's no need for it whatsoever. I don't have a problem with blokes wanting to dress up as women, you want
You know, what they do behind closed doors, it's up to them, consenting adults. But we
Exactly.
noticed
don't put it in my children's face.
the BBC closed the parents when we were at the judicial review in Cardiff. The parents, because it was right, the BBC building was right over where the court was, and there was no one talking about it, and there was hundreds of parents from all faiths saying our children, our choice, you know, and there was gays there, there was lesbians, they're all supporting it because they're all in agreement, not in our name, you know, they want children to be. So the parents walked over to the BBC to ask them, why aren't you coming? You know, why don't you come over and report? This is news. And the BBC closed all their doors, locked the building down and called the police, who turn up, and some of the police are wearing gay pride badges, lapel badges.
They're not allowed to be politicised.
And they're not supposed to be politicised.
No.
So, you know, adult entertainment going into libraries has no place around our children, and the police are protecting the drag queens.
Of course they are. Of course they are. They've been infiltrated as well. The police have shown their true colours when the demonstrations were going on, and the difference in the way that they treated people who were demonstrating against lockdown and the Black Lives Matter stuff. Completely different of two demonstrations. And so they nailed their colours to the mast then. And I've lost all confidence in our police. I've lost all confidence in our medical people. I've lost all confidence in science, and it's just been so corrupt over these last few years. People have really shown their true colours, and the police have been no different. You know, the BBC certainly been no different. We know the BBC's are prolific cover-uppers of paedophiles down the years, so it's no surprise that they want to turn a blind eye to all this. Because, you know, we know what happened with Jimmy Savile, and they knew what was going on, and they allowed it to continue. How that organisation is still going beggars belief, and how people still actually give money to that organisation. It is quite incredible. I mean, I'm not paying my TV licence ever again.
And there's the woke thing as well as taking the knee thing. I don't know what that's. Taking the knee actually triggers me like ridiculous. I mean, obviously the kids do, but as soon as I hear taking the knee, that's it. You know, and I can't believe how many of our British football players are bent to it as well. I mean, I couldn't watch. What was the last one? Was it the World Cup that's just gone on, or whatever?
It was the World Cup last. You
know, my son and I was, and I just couldn't watch it. Anyone was going to take that knee. I just.
Got them a lot, didn't it?
Yeah.
Would you, if they'd asked you to do it, Matt? Would you have taken the knee?
I think that I've taken over the last couple of years, you could probably guess what my reaction. I probably would have been. I think I would have been the only player in our league to stand up and go, "No, not for me, mate. Not doing that."
What about talking about, you know, your colleagues throughout the time? You know, you're obviously still in touch. You made loads of friends. You've had an incredible career. Do anybody within your circle, you know, of the sports circle, anybody else raising concerns, even not publicly, but like just quietly? Yeah, this is all a bit lunacy. We don't ask you to say the names. It would just be encouraging to think people in the world of sport are taking notice of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are taking notice. Just that some are not quite brave enough, or you know, not willing to sacrifice anything to stand up for what they actually believe in. You know, I did what I did. I knew what the consequences were going to be, but I was prepared to take those because I felt like the issues were far more important than, you know, me earning a decent living at Sky, for instance. And a lot of people, you know, are not quite as, I don't know if it's not really bravery. I'm not sure. It's kind of having, I guess, strong enough beliefs in what they're talking about to actually stand up for themselves. And I guess, you know, to a point, I kind of get that they've got families to feed and they need the income and all that kind of stuff. But so did I. And I found different ways of earning income, you know, without having to rely on, you know, the mainstream media for my money. So there is a world outside of mainstream media. And I have to say it's a much happier world because I can be free in all my thoughts, and I don't have to kowtow to my employers. And I'm allowed to say what I think is happening in the world and not be silenced because my employers might not like it if I say that, so I better shut up. I've never been one to just sit up. I've always my opinion, and I'll continue to do that for the rest of my life.
Wow, wish there was more like you, Matt. Really, like the integrity. It's what it's.
Yeah,
it's what it's all about. I mean, we're
that.
struggling with the censorship, aren't we? And trying to get the fundraising in because, people don't talk about it. As we say, it's an uncomfortable subject. The weight is on 5 parents, as say, who's standing between us, and we have to sit here. We're going to be sitting here for 36 hours, begging people. The thought's just horrendous. It keeps giving me shivers every time I think about it.
Because I remember the first time.
We're just to raise a bit of money to support these 5 parents because they've already had 100 grand from taxpayers' money. We had 1 barrister. We had Catherine's partner, Darren, doing the solicitor work.
So we saved a bit on that.
Saved a bit of money on that.
Thankfully.
And every single penny of that campaign goes to these parents, to the legal costs.
Yeah, I have to say,
it's hell. I mean, this morning we've only raised nearly 200, and we should have done better than that really by now already. But if we could, I don't know if you could just tell people why it's so important to get behind these parents, because it's they're the only thing that's stopping it at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll be happy to put out some links and stuff whenever I can. I'll do that as soon as I come off here. I'll get on here and pop the links on and encourage people to understand what's going on and how important it is. And yeah, I'm sure we'll up that figure by the end of this weekend, because you guys are doing a fantastic job, and we will raise as much awareness as we can for you.
Thank you so much. At the end of the day, all that keeps us going is that it's just we're doing this, and it is for the children, because they are. It's so corny. I hate it, but they are the future.
It is true,
and we've got to protect that innocence. These people want to strip it away from our children. So the second they get into that classroom, they want to strip that little bit of innocence away from them. We can't let that happen. I tear up every time I say that. I really do.
We can't let it happen because I know it's corny and it does sound a bit weird and it sounds like I'm just about to break into song, but they are the future, and if we don't, so we can do what we want as adults and protect us, and that's great and whatever. But if we're not focused on the children, there'll be a time where these children, and they're being manipulated. They are being manipulated in school as well, right? To believe, once you catch a child before the age of 7, then you've pretty much got them. So if you're influencing them with this confusing woke stuff, they're going to grow up, and what they're doing in the schools as well, and I don't think people realize this, is they're turning them, especially the older ones, they're turning them into socio-political activists. So they're coming out now as a completely new generation with completely different traditions and values and morals from their parents then, because they sort of breaking the family unit down. So we'll get to a stage where we're all yay, but they're going to come up and just take right over that with everything, unless we fight for them now while they're young. Do you know what I mean? I think we've already got one generation at least.
I think you're right. I think there is one generation. If this continues, I dread to think what the world is going to look like in 30 years. So yes, we are.
Exactly.
It's frightening. Well, Matt Le Tissier, thank you so much for coming on and supporting us today on this very important, very long
We're only
podcast.
2 hours in, and we're all lovely at the moment and fresh-faced and bushy-tailed, but give us a few hours.
Give us a few hours. But yeah,
Good sustenance.
ProtectionWales.org and Liberty Tactics are kind of doing it, and we need some donation. We need some donations for this, for what we're doing. We're doing it. Every single penny goes direct into the legal fund for these parents. It is not fair that these people have these costs put on their shoulders when they're not doing it for the children, just the children of Wales. They're doing it for every single child in the UK, and we need to start doing it, as Kimberly needs to start doing, and people like us, we need to start a movement to protect our children, even when after all this is finished.
Definitely.
We've got to continue, and we have to have our children, I believe, in the forefront of our mind all the time.
Absolutely. Well said and well done, and keep up the great work.
God bless you, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care. Tune in this time tomorrow. Take care. God bless.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much. So we got our wonderful Paul Fitch coming up soon. He's going to join us from the Wirral. We do have a video coming out now. Darren's video for Phil, Jason's promo, and then a small documentary promo with Kim. So we're going to be back in about 10-15 minutes with the wonderful Paul Fitch.
See you soon, guys.
As you see, they've got a neck on the floor. As you see, they've got a neck on the floor. He's got his hand on her neck. What's it that she did? What's it that she did?
He's straight out of Wales with the wind in his sails. He's tipping the scales, Silurian trails, revealing their names while he's lifting their veils. Public as sales, no one exhales. Won't read in the mail, it's not printed in braille. No bonus for sales, the light will prevail. He's telling the tale while he's hot on the trail. Whole nother scale, he's hammering the nail. He's trolling and rolling the camera and showing the standard that's double. Exposing the bubble, removing the muzzle. He's always got trouble, he's fighting the muscle and solving the puzzle. He's taking the fight and he's spreading the light and he's doing it right. Taking dackers and night and he's making it bright and providing insight while he's flooding your eyes like a hare in the headlight.
Step back, don't even pick on me. Are you watching this? The press aren't allowed to film.
Injustice is served, collar crime is submerged. Don't be absurd, your vision is blurred. He's seen it occur, so right there on the curb. His iPhone record, he's filming the herd. BLM thugs act like palms high on drugs. They wrecking the place, they're smashing the face. He's in with the thick, in with hammers and sticks. Exposing the truth, he's showing the proof. He's trolling and rolling the camera and showing the standard that's double. Exposing the bubble, removing the muzzle. He's always got trouble, he's fighting the muscle and solving the puzzle. He's taking the fight and he's spreading the light and he's doing it right. Taking dackers and night and he's making it bright and providing insight while he's flooding your eyes like a hare in the headlight.
You just don't want to see it there. You just don't want to see the violence. You don't want to see the violence that's on some of those people. 3 people on a woman.
Support for the vets, pray unless we forget the pain he besets and the truth he projects. He's a victim of threats, but he never regrets. Live stream the upsets, no printing gazettes. He's taken the test, got the pedo's address. No south, east or west, he streams the protest. No news is suppressed, the whole truth is expressed. Twin standards he tests, he's facing arrest. He's trolling and rolling the camera and showing the standard that's double. Exposing the bubble, removing the muzzle. He's always got trouble, he's fighting the muscle and solving the puzzle. He's taking the fight and he's spreading the light and he's doing it right. Taking dackers and night and he's making it bright and providing insight while he's flooding your eyes like a hare in the headlight.
There's 4, 5 on one. There's 2 on a girl. They pinned her to the floor. This one's getting a bully boy tactics, that's from the TSG probably. Sergeant, yeah.